My name is King Azoulay.
All right. Well, thank you for joining us for an interview today. First off, is King your actual name?
No, my real name is Ben Dover. I changed my name to King because I am a descendant of King Solomon, and also because I don't want people to Google my real name.
And why don't you want people to Google you?
I can't talk about that.
So, did you get your name legally changed to King?
No, I just want people to call me that.
Well, that's stupid, but statistically, any of us could be a descendant from King Solomon. Do you guys have anything else in common?
Yeah, I have a beard.
Okay, anybody can grow a beard, and there isn't any actual evidence of his physical appearance, so it's not actually a fact that King Solomon even had a beard. We'll move on. King Solomon was also known for having 700 wives,
Yeah, that's another thing we have in common. Women love me.
many of whom were young teenagers. Is there a correlation there?
I can't talk about that. The main thing that I have in common with all of the kings all over time is that I'm full of shit and everyone hates me. I'm a king because of what I've done. I've done everything. I was anti-terrorism. I was a bodyguard. I was a cage fighter, a telemarketer. I've been a millionaire. I've been homeless. I was in prison. I was a Buddhist monk. I was a samurai. I was an actor. I was an astronaut. I was a firefighter. I was a beekeeper. I was a mechanic. I was a working man. I was a spy. I was a hummingbird. I was a bank robber. I was a transporter.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounds like you're just listing Jason Statham movies.
I can't talk about that. I've done many things that I can't talk about for my safety and for your safety.
Why would I need protection? I'm just interviewing you.
I can't talk about that.
Why can't you ever talk about the stuff you're already talking about?
I can't talk about that. I was Special Forces anti-terrorism for 10 years. I led many teams on many missions. One time during World War II, I had to lead a team behind enemy lines to save a soldier from my platoon.
Was his name by chance Private Ryan?
I can't talk about that. When I was 10 years old, the government experimented on me with gamma radiation. And then one time, my dad tried to hit me with a stick, and I got so angry that I started to grow and turn green, and my clothes ripped off of my body, and I went like that, and I broke the stick because I was so strong. When I was 15, I became an underground cage fighter, and also I was a bodyguard. I was a bodyguard while I was a cage fighter.
All right, clearly making this up as you go, but for the sake of this interview, how is a 15-year-old going to protect anybody?
I can't talk about that. One time when I was 12, I was crawling through the sewer, and I accidentally crawled through some ooze, and I noticed that there was 4 turtles crawling through the ooze, and I rescued them, and I took them home, and I taught them martial arts, and I named them all after famous Renaissance painters, and they ended up making a movie about it.
So you mean to tell me that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is based on your life?
I can't talk about that. When I was 18, I was a millionaire, and I was also homeless, sleeping in the park, and I was also in prison.
Yeah, we got court documents that say you were throwing parties when you were 18, bro.
Yeah, but that was my parents' house.
Well, if you're living with your parents, then you're not homeless or in prison.
I can't talk about that. When I was 13, I used to go to a Chinese restaurant, and the guy that owned it used to move all the tables and teach me kung fu.
And which restaurant was this?
I can't talk about that. Then when I was 14, I became a Buddhist monk, and I used to bang my head against a wall every day to make my head strong.
You know, I actually believe every word of that.
When I was 21, I was harassed by a small town sheriff and his deputies, and I had to use my survival skills to fight back.
Funny, that's also the plot of Rambo.
That's what they called me, but
You
I can't talk about that.
yeah.
When I was 23, I worked undercover for the LAPD, and I had to infiltrate the LA street racing scene to try to bust a gang of hijackers. and I met a man named Dominic Toretto, but I ended up letting him go. And then I married his sister. It all happened so fast and furious. When I was 17, somebody murdered my adopted mother.
Oh, I know this one.
And me and my 3 adopted brothers had to search for her killer.
It's 4 brothers.
And we questioned everyone in town until we eventually found them. They called us the 4 brothers. When I was 27, I got diagnosed with cancer. So I decided to start cooking crystal meth so that I could provide for my wife and my disabled son. But I was also a school teacher, so it was very surprising for someone like me to break so bad. When I was 29, my wife passed away, and she left me a dog. And one time, the Russian mafia broke into my house in the middle of the night, and they stole my car, and they killed my dog. After that, I went on the murderous rampage, and I beat off over 200 men.
Pause, but that also sounds a lot like John Wick.
That was a name that they called me, but I can't talk about that.
Have you done anything that isn't based on a movie?
I can't talk about that. All of these fake influencers out here trying to throw dirt on my name.
You mean your real name or your fake name?
The fake name. I mean, the real name. The fake name is my real name, but I can't talk about that. All these fake influencers, the John Bravos, the Dubs, the Babas, the Mud Pits, the American Thors, the High Fight IQs. You guys are gonna learn not to mess with the king. I'm gonna teach you a lesson. And how I'm gonna teach you a lesson is I'm gonna challenge one of you to a cage fight.
Okay, well then who are you challenging?
Well, which of them are fighters?
Well, Nathan at American Thor is a retired Green Beret, so I'm sure he's very well versed in hand-to-hand combat and weapons training. Dubs is a former gang member and served a very lengthy prison sentence, and albeit he is reformed now, has been involved in several fights and has never been afraid to get down. And Drew at High Fight IQ is a former martial arts competitor and trainer with over 30 years of martial arts experience and still an avid member of the MMA community, so I'm sure any of those guys would give you a good fight.
Then I want to fight with John Bravos. Who is this guy with all these jokes? The High Fight IQs. Does he even fight?
Do you even fight?
Of course I fight. I was a cage fighter for 15 years.
And do you have any proof of that whatsoever?
No, I can't talk about that.
Everybody be quiet. Now everybody be quiet, quiet. Now everybody be quiet. Quit talking, just shut up.